And the supernal spirits replied, Spouse of the Most High, thy beloved is the only one, he that is for himself, who has no need of anything, but of whom all stand in need. He is infinite in his perfections, immense in his greatness, without limit in his power, ineffable in his wisdom, without measure in his goodness. He gives a beginning to all things without having a beginning himself. He governs the world without asking consent, preserves it without having need of it, sees the beauty of all creation without ever being comprehended in his beauty by any one, and raises to blessedness by his beauty those who succeed in seeing him face to face. Infinite are, O Lady, the perfections of thy spouse. They exceed thy comprehension, and his high judgments are inscrutable to the creature. In such colloquies and many others, too high for our capacity, most holy Mary passed her infancy, conversing with the angels and the Most High, becoming more and more like to him. As her fervor and longing to see our highest good increased, being entirely enraptured in him, she was by the disposal of the Lord many times borne bodily by the hands of the angels to the empyrean heaven, where she enjoyed the presence of the divinity. On those occasions she would at times see God face to face, at other times by infused images of the highest and most godlike kind. She saw also the angels by clear and intuitive vision, their degrees, orders, and hierarchies, and many sacraments were made manifest to her on each occasion. As these visions were often repeated, she gradually, by becoming accustomed to them and by acts of virtue which she exercised in connection with them, began to appear more a divine than a human creature. No one else would ever be capable of such favors and of others connected therewith, and even the mortal nature of that queen herself would have been deprived of life if she had not been preserved by a miracle. When in her childhood it was necessary to accept any service or benefit at the hands of her parents or of any other creature, she always received it with interior humility and thankfulness, beseeching the Lord to reward the good which they did in love toward her. Though she had attained such a high degree of sanctity, and though she was filled with the light of God and his mysteries, she nevertheless judged herself to be the least of all creatures, and whenever she made comparisons, she ascribed to herself the last place of all. Even of the nourishment necessary to sustain life, she considered herself unworthy, though she was the queen and mistress of all creation. Instructions given by the Queen of Heaven. My daughter, he that received more ought to consider himself more needy, since his debt becomes so much the greater. All should humiliate themselves, since of themselves they are nothing, nor can they do anything or oppose aught. On this account, they that are raised up by the hand of the Almighty should humiliate themselves as mere dust. For left to themselves and to their nothingness and unworthiness, they should esteem themselves so much the more indebted and bound to thankfulness for that which by themselves they can never repay. Let man acknowledge its condition, for no one can say, I have made myself, I preserve myself in existence, I can prolong my life or postpone death. All his being and preservation is in the hands of the Lord. Let each one therefore humble himself in his presence. And thou, my dearest, do not forget these truths.